Once upon a time, on the edge of a big forest, lived a little girl with her mom and dad. Every time the little girl went into the forest, in a red hood she would be clad. The little girl felt so safe in that forest, all because of the red hood she wore. The little girl's name became Little Red Riding Hood, a name that she did adore. One day the little girl's mom baked a cake all tasty and sweet. It was a present for Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother as a treat. Grandma lived on the other side of the forest, so her mum told her to go, as long as she stuck to the pathway and went fast and not too slow. Told her not to stop or talk to strangers along the way, to always keep walking, walking on, and never ever to stray. So off she went into the forest with a basket on her arm. Her mum hoped Little Red Riding Hood would not come to any harm. Little Red Riding Hood walked down the pathway, and the big bad wolf she did not see. The wolf was very, very hungry and watching her from in front of a tree. He was thinking of eating her and trying his best to take a look at which way and which pathway Little Red Riding Hood took. Inside his head, he came beside Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf tried to be friendly and in a voice which sounded sweet and so good. He said, "Where are you going, little girl?" He showed her a nice big smile. "To my grandmother's place," she said, "it will take me a little while." The big bad wolf started to walk with Little Red Riding Hood along the path. "You should pick these pretty flowers for your grandma," he said with a laugh. As Little Red Riding Hood was picking the flowers, the big bad wolf ran. He wanted to reach grandmother's place before her, as he had a plan. The big bad wolf arrived at grandmother's place and knocked upon the door. Grandmother said, "Who is it?" She thought she knew but could not be sure. The sneaky wolf changed his voice and said, "It's me, grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood." Grandmother was so pleased to hear it was her and said, "Oh, is it you? That is good." The door was unlocked, so the wolf went in, and grandmother was shocked. She tried to speak, but because of the shock, her words were blocked. The wolf was so hungry, he swallowed grandmother up without even a chew. He then waited for Little Red Riding Hood to show up, wanting to eat her too. The wolf dressed himself in grandmother's clothes and jumped into
Once there lived a kind and wealthy king named Midas. He was so obsessed with wealth that he would dream of it every night. One day, Midas saw an elderly man in the garden. He invited the man to his palace. At the palace, a young man wearing a leafy crown appeared. He was looking for the elderly man. The elderly man said to Midas, "This is Dionysus. He is a god." Dionysus said to Midas, "You've been very kind to my friend. In return, I will grant you a wish." Midas wished, "Everything I touch must turn to gold." "So be it," said Dionysus, snapping his fingers. Instantly, Midas's wooden stick turned into a gold one. Midas touched his palace, and the walls turned to dazzling gold. He felt like the richest man in the world. It was dinner time, and Midas was hungry. But when he touched his food, it turned to gold. Oh no! His daughter heard his cries. She ran towards Midas and hugged him. Even she turned into a golden statue. He cried for help from Dionysus. Dionysus appeared. He said, "Bathing in the river will wash away your gift." Midas stepped into the river, and his stick became wooden again. He went back to his palace. Everything was back to normal. Midas was very happy. He promised to never be greedy again. On a time, there lived an old man with his wife. The old man planted some turnip seeds. He watered them and cared for them. The seeds grew into plants. There were lots of turnips. The old man took good care of them. Out of all those turnips, there was one huge turnip. He had never seen a giant turnip before. Finally, the turnip stopped growing. The old man decided to pull it out of the ground. He pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip wouldn't budge. The old man called his wife for help. The wife held the old man, and the old man held the turnip top. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled. They called their son for help. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip wouldn't budge. They called their dog for help. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled, but the giant turnip still wouldn't budge. At last, they all called the little mouse for help. He crawled his way under the turnip and started nipping the roots with his teeth. While the little mouse nipped the roots, they kept pulling, and suddenly, pop! Out of the ground came the giant turnip. Everyone was pleased. That evening, they all enjoyed a delicious turnip supper, even the little mouse.